If we don't take back the North, we'll never be safe. I want you to help me, but I'll do it myself if I have to.
Sansa seems awfully assured that Jon Snow can rally the houses of the North to toss Ramsay Bolton from Winterfell and rescue Rickon. And there's very good reason to think she's right. As many fans pointed out after last week's episode, Small John Umber, the man who turned Rickon over to Ramsay, managed to do so without kneeling or swearing any oaths.
Swear loyalty to me as Warden of the North, and we will fight together to destroy the bastard and all his wildling friends.
I'm not kissing your fucking hand.
Is he actually working as a double agent?
Could be. Look at Osha. She wasn't just trying to save herself with her lies to Ramsay. If she wanted to be safe, she could have abandoned Rickon long ago. No, she seemed to have a very clear plan on how to seduce and kill the new Lord of Winterfell. It didn't work, but it does seem to confirm that this group might want to take down the Boltons from the inside.
So the Umbers were pretending to make peace with the Boltons, but in fact they were laying the groundwork to wage war. In this episode, we see many characters facing down a similar dilemma. Do you make peace with your enemies, or do you wage all-out war?
That's in the past now.
This is in the past. Doesn't mean I forget. Or forgive.
Cersei and Olenna have been waging a cold war against each other for years, but Olenna's been trying to play nice with the religious nuts holding her granddaughter. That is, until Cersei reveals that Marjorie's due to have her own walk of shame. Now the Tyrells and Lannisters are teaming up like the old days, and we can expect a showdown at the Sept in the near future.
Sansa, continuing to feed our Queen of the North theories, is so done with playing nice and being diplomatic.
A monster has taken our home and our brother. We have to go back to Winterfell and save them both.
She is ready to rain serious hell on the Boltons, and while the odds don't seem in her favor, she does have an undead guy, a Red Priestess, Brienne, and apparently Littlefinger might show up in time to help her out.
Time has come to join the fray.
Bet you guys never thought you'd find yourself rooting for Littlefinger.
Dany could have opted to bow her head and become another smelly old advisor to the cows, but she definitely chose war. Not only did she burn all the calls with a look so cold even Arya would be impressed, she gained an entire army in the aftermath. I'm pretty sure she won't be using them to break bread with the slavers.
It doesn't strike me as a coincidence that it was the women who were standing up in front when Daenerys murdered those tedious old calls. This whole episode was about women being the ones who chose war, while men are overly cautious, diplomatic, or small-minded. Dany even underlines this theme by calling the calls small men.
Tyrion certainly wouldn't shut up about diplomacy this episode, and while we trust him to know the affairs of Westeros, he seems a little too confident he can talk his way out of war with the slavers. He has strong advisors who know his enemy, and though Tyrion chooses to ignore them, Grey Worm and Missandei are probably right that Tyrion's grand appeasement policy won't end well.
You will not use them. They will use you. That is what they do.
One man who does seem to be doing well by himself so far by relying on political manipulation instead of brute force is the High Sparrow. Marjorie sees through his manipulations, but he's so good at it she's half taken in anyway. His story of sin and redemption is clearly a riff on the real-world medieval concept of memento mori. Medieval monks, especially those who belonged to more ascetic orders, would often meditate on the universal nature of death as a reminder not to strive for petty things like power or wealth, but instead to live a life of humility.
That false humility is actually a pretty good cover for the Sparrow's own grand plans. So he might be the one man thinking big in Westeros, but has he finally overstepped his bounds?
We have no names, no family. Every one of us is poor and powerless. And yet together, we can overthrow an empire.
The irony here is that the High Sparrow portrays himself as a spiritual man, above the petty distraction of the Game of Thrones. But he's one of the biggest players. In fact, there's only one character in this entire episode who actually bothers to remember that all these politics are a distraction from the real issue.
We saw what's out there. We know it's coming here. How can you leave us now?
So when Jon heads south, will he just leave Ed and his, 6 guys to defend the wall from the White Walkers?
Maybe we'll find out next week on House Slate.